Claire Whitman hadn't planned on returning to Maplewood. In fact, she had made it her mission since age 18, never to look back. Big cities called to her, promising sleek apartments, sushi on demand, and anonymity in the noise. But grief, like gravity, pulls even the strongest from the clouds. Her grandmother, Elsie, had passed away 3 weeks before. Left behind was a crumbling farmhouse on the edge of a maple forest, and one very specific line in her will. Claire will inherit the house only if she lives in it for 1 full season. So, Claire arrived in the middle of October, suitcase in hand, boots crunching over red and gold leaves. The house hadn't changed. White porch, green shutters, a wind chime made of spoons, and the smell warm cider, old wood, and faint lavender hit her like a lullaby from childhood. Inside, it was cluttered with ghosts. Not real ones, but memories. Pictures of her as a kid baking pies. The floral wallpaper she used to hate. The crack in the living room window that no one ever fixed. She stayed out on the porch for an hour before she called the number on the post-it stuck to the door. "Call Ethan Callahan, the local contractor, for help." "Ethan Callahan," said a warm, slightly amused voice on the other end. "You must be Claire. Heard you were back." His voice sounded like campfires and coffee familiar. She hated that. Ethan arrived the next morning, truck rumbling up the drive, with a golden retriever hanging its head out the window, and a little girl in the passenger seat, munching on a granola bar. He stepped out. Tall, tanned, flannel shirt rolled at the sleeves. Beard scruffy but well kept. Claire, unfortunately, noticed everything. "You've grown," he said, smiling with that boyish charm small towns seem to breed. Claire narrowed her eyes. "You're Ethan Callahan?" "Yep. Used to ride my bike past your grandma's porch trying to catch a glimpse of you." He laughed. "Guess dreams do come true." She groaned. "Great, you're one of those." "Guilty," he said. "But I'm also the guy who can fix that leaky roof, if you want to sleep without a drip-drip soundtrack tonight." And just like that, they began a rhythm. Each morning, Ethan would come by with his daughter Lila, who would play in the yard or read in the corner while her dad worked. Claire found herself talking to Lila more than she wanted to. The girl was clever, inquisitive, and had a gap-toothed smile that could melt concrete. Ethan, for his part, was maddeningly kind. He brought her coffee, fixed her porch swing, installed a new water heater before she even asked. Claire told herself it was his job, nothing more. But when he built her a new spice rack just because she said she missed the one in her old apartment, she felt her walls shift. Just a little. Claire, who hadn't cooked a meal for anyone in months, decided on a whim to make her grandmother's butternut squash bisque. She found the handwritten recipe in an old tin box labeled, "Don't touch, Claire." That alone made her determined to perfect it. Ethan showed up just as she was blending the second batch. He walked in without knocking typical Maplewood behavior. "Smells like fall in here," he said, setting his toolbox down. "It's lunch," she replied. "I made enough for you and Lila." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "You're cooking now?" "That's new." Claire rolled her eyes. "I wasn't always a food critic, you know. I used to bake pies here as a kid." "Then I'll risk it," he said with a smile. They sat across from each other at the old kitchen table, slurping soup and sharing stories about the town. Claire learned that Ethan had taken over his father's carpentry business after a car accident 5 years ago. That he'd been raising Lila alone since her mother left when she was a baby. That he hadn't dated seriously in years. "Too busy," he said, shrugging. But there was something else in his eyes. After lunch, he lingered, washed the dishes without asking, then stayed to fix the squeaky back door, even though it wasn't on the list. That night, Claire journaled for the first time in over a year. The last line read, "I'm not sure if it's the super him, But something warned me today. By mid-November, the house was nearly finished. The roof no longer leaked. The fireplace crackled to life again. Claire had even started leaving cookies out for Lila when she came over after school. But Claire still fought her feelings like they were fire ants. Every time Ethan got too close, she backed off. She kept reminding herself, "You're going back to New York in December. This isn't your life. It's a detour." Then came the storm. A nor'easter rolled into Maplewood on Thanksgiving weekend. Claire's flight to the city was cancelled. The roads were iced over, and the power at the farmhouse went out just as the turkey finished thawing. She was about to panic when headlights pulled into her drive. It was Ethan. "You didn't think I was going to let you freeze in here, did you?" he asked. "I'm fine," she lied. He held up a generator and a bag of groceries. "You're not." An hour later, they were cooking Thanksgiving dinner by candlelight. Leela helped mash potatoes, while Ethan and Claire talked over the stove like they'd been doing it for years. After dinner, they played charades. Leila fell asleep by the fireplace, her head on Claire's lap. Ethan leaned on the arm of the couch beside them, their knees touching lightly. "This feels real," Claire whispered, more to herself than him. Ethan looked at her softly. "That's because it is." The snow stayed for weeks. Flights were delayed. Life slowed down. And Claire found herself stuck in Maplewood longer than expected. Not that she minded anymore. She started writing again, not food reviews, but essays, poems, pieces about grief, belonging, and healing. Her laptop sat permanently on the kitchen table, and sometimes Ethan would read over her shoulder as he passed by. "That one's good," he'd say, pointing to a paragraph she doubted. "Really?" He'd nod. "It's raw, but it's honest." One night in early December, Claire brought out the Christmas ornaments her grandmother had stored in the attic. Some were dusty and cracked, others perfectly preserved. One, a small ceramic moon with 1996 written in gold, made her stop. "I made this," she said, holding it up. Ethan smiled. "I remember. You were obsessed with the moon that year. I thought it granted wishes." She laughed. "And did it?" Claire turned the ornament over in her hands. "I don't know. I stopped believing in wishes." Ethan took it from her gently. "Maybe you just forgot what you wished for." There was a pause. Soft, electric. And then, for the first time, he kissed her. Not rushed, not hesitant. Just true. After that kiss, nothing and everything changed. They didn't talk about it the next day, or the day after. But everything between them had shifted. Smiles lingered longer. Hands brushed more often. Silences grew more comfortable. Then one evening, as they decorated the tree, Claire finally broke. "I need to be honest," she said, her voice quiet. "I'm supposed to go back. My apartment lease is up in January. I have a job offer in Chicago. Food magazine. Big salary." Ethan froze. "You didn't tell me." "I didn't know if I wanted to take it." "I still don't." Ethan turned away, staring at the fire. "You don't owe me anything, Claire. You were never supposed to stay." She stepped toward him. "Maybe I was never supposed to leave." He looked at her then, all his guarded hope flooding back. "Then don't." Claire's eyes filled. "It's not that simple." "Yes, it is," he said. "Stay if you want to, but not for me. For you." Claire found the letter on Christmas Eve, tucked inside an envelope addressed in her grandmother's handwriting. "Read only when you know what home means." She opened it with trembling hands. "My darling Claire, you've always been running. I never blamed you for it. But the truth is, you weren't running from Maplewood. You were running towards something you hadn't found yet. When I wrote that line in my will, I didn't do it to trap you. I did it to give you a chance to stop moving long enough to listen to your heart. I hope you find love in this house. In yourself." maybe even in someone else. But more than anything, I hope you choose the life that feels like peace. Yours always, Grandma Elsie. Claire read it twice, then again. By the fourth time, she knew what she had to do. The day after Christmas, Claire walked through the woods alone, snow crunching under her boots, the wind catching strands of her hair. She stopped at the edge of a frozen creek and closed her eyes. She pictured her old life, the noise, the deadlines, the parties where no one really listened. Then she pictured Maplewood, Ethan's smile, Lila's laughter, the porch swing, the letter. When she got home, she called the magazine in Chicago. "Thank you," she said, "but I'm turning it down." She didn't explain why. That evening, she went to Ethan's house. He opened the door, Lila at his hip and a trace of surprise in his eyes. "I'm not going back," Claire said. "Not to New York. Not to running." Ethan stared at her. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything," she said. Then Lila beamed and hugged Claire's waist. "Does that mean you're staying forever?" Claire knelt. "Only if your dad doesn't mind." Ethan smiled. "I'd like that. Very much." Claire moved into the farmhouse for good. Ethan and Leela helped her paint the walls soft cream. She opened a pop-up cafe in town using her grandmother's old recipes and modern twists. Locals came for the pecan tartlets but stayed for the stories she told in the margins of the menu. Ethan proposed not on one knee, not in front of a crowd, but quietly, while she was brushing snow off the porch swing one January morning. He handed her a mug of cider and a small box. "It's not a grand gesture," he said. "Just a promise I plan to keep." Claire opened the box to find a ring made from her grandmother's old spoon collection. It fit perfectly. They married in the spring, under a canopy of maple trees behind the farmhouse. Lila was the flower girl. The entire town showed up, some in flannel, some in formal, all smiling. Claire wore a vintage dress that once belonged to her grandmother. Ethan wore suspenders and nerves. They wrote their own vows. "I was lost in cities," Claire said, "and I found myself in a small town with you." "I never dreamed big," Ethan replied, "but you made my world wider and deeper and real." The reception was held in the barn, with string lights, pies on mismatched plates, and dancing on old hardwood until midnight. Claire didn't stop smiling once.